Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the Accessing Federal Employment webinar today. We are joined by our partners from the Department of Veterans Affairs. My name is Julie Holmes, and I'm accompanied by my colleague Lisa Stanley from the Southwest District Business Representatives. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping rules to go over. So this is an interactive webinar. So as our presenters are going over USA Jobs, please feel free throughout the event to enter a question in the chat box, or you can also use the raised hand feature in this section. There will also be some reserved time at the end of the event to answer questions. Closed captioning is available if you click on the CC closed caption button and then also click on show subtitle. We also have live interpreters to assist us throughout this presentation. Additionally, this video will be recorded and then eventually you will have access to this on Yes LMS. If you have any technical difficulties during this presentation, you may also contact the Zoom Help Center. So today during this webinar, we are welcoming Al, who is a Senior Strategic Business Partner from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. So Al is going to help us in understanding the language and terminology of federal employment, in addition to how to really navigate USA Jobs, gain invaluable information and useful tips on how to best apply for federal employment, in addition to assisting our customers in securing a job for employment, federal employment, excuse me. And so without further ado, I welcome Al and his team.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that. It is a pleasure to virtually meet you all and to be able to do this demonstration and walk you through USA Jobs. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I have instructed my counterparts to be able to just kind of let me know that there are questions being asked so that I will stop. So you don't have to wait until the end of the presentation in order to ask questions, because most of the demonstration will be live. And if you wait until the end of the question or to ask the questions at the end of it, it may just be kind of a little too late, or we would have to walk through that again. So with that being said, again, it is a pleasure to be here and to be able to do this. We look forward to strengthening our partnerships with Michigan Rehab Services and be able to walk you guys through USA Jobs and how to apply for a federal job, what we look for in resumes, and we'll also be talking to some of our hiring authorities as well. So I will begin sharing my screen and we'll walk through everything that I just mentioned. All right, I hope that you all can see this screen well. So again, my name is Al Kuko. My information here, I am the Senior Strategic Partner for Human Resources. Basically, it's a fancy way of saying I am the Chief of the Service or the Director of the Service for Battle Creek Veterans Affairs. In order to get a hold of me, you have my contact information here. Feel free to shoot me an email or give me a phone call or even a text if needed. And I will be more than happy to assist you down the road. As I mentioned, we will be walking through USA Jobs. I'll do a real live demonstration on USA Jobs. I will show you everything about USA Jobs that there is, how to search on it, how to upload documents, how to build a resume, and so on and so forth, and even check the status of your applications down the road. The other thing we will be talking about is our different hiring authorities, such as Schedule A, Veterans Preference, and then non-competitive hiring authorities. We'll dive right into the different hiring authorities. So the first one is Schedule A. So when you think of a federal job, there are two ways of applying for a job. You can go through the competitive route, and that's basically the traditional, you apply for the job, You send your resume over to us, the hiring managers. We review your resume, and if we like what we see, we will set you up with an interview. And then after passing an interview, we'll extend a job offer. That is considered the competitive route. Now, we also have some non-competitive routes as well. Basically, it gives individuals who meet certain criteria the same opportunity and affords them to be considered for a job through the non-competitive route. I want to stress and make sure that people understand, just because you may meet one of these criteria, it does not guarantee a job. All it does is it guarantees that it gets your application over to the hiring manager for further consideration. Schedule A. So Schedule A is for individuals with severe psychiatric, intellectual, or physical disability. Our Title V positions, which are our most administrative or clerk positions in the administrative world, this can be applied for it. So in order to use it, generally speaking, we would just need proof of a disability documented by a licensed medical professional, a licensed vocab rehab specialist, or a federal state department agency. And then you would just let us know, and you would upload that through your application through USA Jobs, or you can send it directly to us, to Human Resources. It is important to note that this disability does not have to be service connected, meaning it does not have to be through the military or anything like that. It can just be any of the stated individuals with those disabilities that I talked about. The next one we'll talk about is the veterans preference. So this is obviously for veterans and service connected. So any men and women who have served in our armed forces, it gives them preference in appointments when the individual was discharged or released from active duty under honorable conditions, and who served on active duty in the armed forces during specific time periods. Now, I don't expect you to remember all of this. I don't expect you to memorize it. Basically, I just want you to get a good understanding of it, and then feel free to reach out to us if you have specific questions with it. So basically, there are three different types. There are the 30% disabled, and that is the disabled veterans who retired from active duty military service with a service-connected disability, rating of 30% or more, or disabled veterans rated by the VA as having a compensable service-connected disability of 30% or more. VRA, which is the Veterans Recruitment Appointment Act, it is for disabled veterans or veterans who have served in active duty during a war or during the time when a campaign badge is authorized, or veterans who received an Armed Forces Service Medal, or recently separated veterans last 3 years and separated under honorable conditions. Lastly, we have VEOA, or Veterans Employment Opportunity Act. Your latest discharge must be issued under honorable conditions, and you must be either a preference eligible or a veteran who substantially completed 3 or more years of active service under honorable conditions. And then lastly, we have a non-competitive hiring authority for some of our hybrid positions or Title 38. So I'll backtrack a little and talk about the 3 different hiring authorities that we have in Veterans Affairs. I've already mentioned Title V, which is your administrative or clerical positions. Title V, you would think of any human resource positions, any secretarial positions, management assistants, program analysts, and so on and so forth. Anything that is on the administrative side. Title 38 is your physician or medical service positions, such as nurses, physicians, dentists, podiatrists, and so on and so forth, that are clinical aspect of providing service to our veterans. And then we have what we consider the Title 38 hybrids, and that is a mix of the Title V and Title 38 kind of hiring authorities pulled together into one. Again, I don't expect you to remember all of this. I'm just giving you a flyover of what they are. Your hybrid positions, we look at those as like our medical support assistants, which is a little bit of admin, but as well as a little bit of clinical services as well. Non-competitive hiring authorities for Title 38 or hybrid may also be explored and looked at, and especially during COVID hires, we have received a lot more flexibility from our headquarters to utilize non-competitive hiring authorities, especially in the nursing field and the physicians field, where it's a little harder for us to fill those positions. I will pause there before I jump into USA Jobs walkthrough to make sure that if there are any questions, I answer them now.
I don't see anything in the chat, Al.
All right, well, thank you. I will go ahead and dive right into USA Jobs. So a little explanation slash understanding of what USA Jobs is. We often just refer to it as USA Jobs, but it is ultimately a website, a database that all federal employment, yes, I can do that. At this point, I'll just share the USA Jobs website. Sorry, I just saw the question and it kind of took me upside. But USA Jobs is a database into which all federal jobs are housed at. Any federal employment opportunity that is, especially through competitive route, must go through USA Jobs. All federal agencies will post their jobs on USA Jobs. Now, we'll advertise through maybe Indeed.com or Glassdoor or any other websites, but ultimately it is going to be directing them back into USA Jobs. So USA Jobs is our one-stop shop federal housing database for any federal employment. So to go to USA Jobs, basically you just go to usajobs.gov. And ultimately on the, I had to open it on two separate things here so I can show you. So ultimately when you just go to usajobs.gov, you would just basically see this main website here. And right off the bat, you will see that you can search for jobs here based on keywords. And it gives you some examples such as job title, department, or agency, or series, or occupation. And then you can also search by a certain location. And then in here is where it will tell you to create a profile. If you've never created a profile with USA Jobs, the beginning initial steps of doing that is a little bit lengthy. So be patient with it when you are showing others on how to do so. And I'll again, walk you through that and do a little flyover. Before I move any forward, can you see this better? Based on the anonymous attendee question that says, could you please go into the presentation mode so I can see a little bit better? Is this better viewing at this point? Awesome. Okay. Great. So again, on USA Jobs, when you go there, first thing you want to do is create a profile if you haven't created one before. So in this instance, I am going to click on create a profile here, and it will tell you that to create an account, you need to enter an email address. It can be any email address. So in this case, we'll just we'll use my other email address that I don't have a USA Jobs account with, just for training purposes. Of course. Let's go back, because our government VA blocks any Gmail activities, so that was not a good email to use, but I'll use my work email. So as you will see, after you enter that email, it will give you a code to enter and to make sure that you are using a valid email address. So while I wait for that code, I'll just go ahead and show you some of after you've created the account, on how to search a job and how to navigate through the rest of USA Jobs. So after you've created an account and have logged in, as you'll see here, I already have an account with USA Jobs. And basically, this is the main interface after you log in. In here, you'll see different tabs that you can click on, such as Home, Profile, Documents, and Preferences. As you can imagine, the Profile tab will have information about yourself. that you will enter in here, and then the different hiring paths that you may qualify for that I talked about in that presentation. So if you feel that you have a Schedule A or RA veteran, you would also enter that data in here. You will enter any federal experience that you may have or any other relatable experience, military service, and as you can see here, it will talk about the different kinds of service that you have, as well as education. And then any demographics, if you speak any different languages, and so on and so forth. So this is just a profile tab. The documents tab after is where it allows you to upload different forms of documentation. Acceptable documentation would be a cover letter, references. It will also ask for any military connected services, so your DD-214 if you have that. If you have previous federal experience, you would also upload an SF-50, which is the standard Form 50 that shows previous federal experience in here, as well as it will let you upload your own resume as a Word doc. Now, when it comes to the resumes, there are two options of going about it. You can upload a resume through your Word doc, or you can build a resume. If you build a resume, you would click on here where it says upload or build a resume. This is where you upload a resume that's already created, or you can build your resume. When you build your resume, so we'll just call this test resume, it will take you step by step in adding work experience. And in here, you would add any, again, it's imagine building a resume through Microsoft Word, but you're doing it through USA Jobs database. So you would enter all the pertinent information about the employer, job title, address, when you started, when you finished, salary, average hours, and then any of the experience that you have. I recommend that you have both, that you upload your own resume as a Word document, and then also create a resume through USA Jobs. Very far and few in between, some job postings will only accept a resume through the uploaded option, I'm sorry, the created option, not the uploaded option. The downfall to this is that when it comes to the experience, it limits it to 5,000 characters. So you'd have to get creative with your wording if you want to reflect that you have a lot of good experience for a specific job and still stay within that 5,000 limit. If you obviously upload a resume, there's no character limit to that because it's a Microsoft Word document. You would just upload that as a regular document attachment to it. So again, I'll pause in here and see if there's any questions when it comes to resumes, because we're going to be doing a lot of flyover information on USA Jobs and talking about the different aspects of it.
I don't have anything in the chat, Al. There was a question, but it was answered.
Great, thank you so much. So as you can see on the other tab, under the other, you will see in here some of the examples that it tells you. Again, transcripts, DD-214, SF-50, OF-306, that's generally after you get a job. Most agencies will have you fill that out. However, if you have a generic one filled out from a previous agency, it also allows you to do that. And as you can see here,
I apologize, but there was a question.
Sure.
Should your resume include every job that you have had?
Great question. So our rule of thumb is 10 years back. More than 10 years, we don't really need to know unless it was a very specific job that highlights a lot of your service and a lot of your experience and knowledge for the job that you're applying for, right? So again, if it's a nurse position and maybe 15 years ago, you were a nurse for 10 years, but then you decided to do a career change. And then in the last 10 years, you did anything but nursing. Then in that example, I would say, because you're applying for a nurse job, I would include that in nursing experience, even though it was more than 10 years ago. But outside of those kind of situations, I would only stick to 10 years of experience and back, or 10 years of job history and back and forward, not back. But yeah, 10 years is the rule of thumb.
And then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, how frequently should you save as you work through this?
So great example. It does automatically save, similar to Microsoft Word. If you are building the resume, every time you go from tab to tab, it will let you, for example, see how it's saved it in here, our test resume. It will let you go back to and edit it. I will just give you a quick example of a built one of the different tabs. Now, bear with me because this was built back in 2018. As you can see, ever since I joined VA, I've been very happy and not looking for a different job. So hence why it's not updated. But as you can see here, it will let you go through different tabs, such as talking about your school, adding any education, the previous experience. Anytime you click on next, it will automatically save it. So you don't have to worry about that. However, should your computer crash in the middle of editing something, chances are it won't save. So if you just wanted to be super careful, I would say go ahead and save manually. But if you go tab to tab, you will be able to have it be saved. So in the building of the resume, to go more into that, it does talk about different job-related training, like I said, language skills, any other organizations. If you've done something that is stand-worthy or should be notified or noticed in a resume, this would be a good opportunity to do that, and then any additional information that you may have. And then once you're done, you would click finish, and then it would save that here. I would also recommend that you click on searchable. Basically what that does is it gives the employers, the agencies, able to search resumes that have clicked on searchable if they are looking for a mass hiring type of event. However, it doesn't, again, guarantee that just because you click searchable that people are going to be able to view your resume. It is still up to you to apply for a job that you want to apply for.
There are two more questions.
Sure.
How important is it to be specific and detailed with your experience?
So that is very important. Our not even a rule of thumb, our processes and procedures, and what I tell my team is we can never assume. So it is up to you to highlight and draw out the specific experience that you have that relates to the job that you are applying for. So again, that's why I said I recommend you upload your own resume as well as build a resume. In the upload the resume, my resume is 20 pages long. I know that sounds crazy, but in the federal government, compared to the private sector will say 1 or 2 pages. For the federal government, we say the more the better. Don't give us room to assume, because we are not going to assume. Because if we assume for you, then we need to assume for others, and then that's when it becomes subjective. And reviewing resumes and qualifying people is subjective as it is. So we don't want to make it any more subjective. So a long answer to your question is add as much information as you can. Now, I would not say like a 200-page resume, but if it was a 20-page resume, like that would be okay.
All right, Al, I don't know if you want to answer these 3 next questions or wait.
I minimized my questions so I could see better. So let me see what the questions were. So I see transcripts. Okay, so transcripts for applying for a job, we will accept an unofficial transcript from the university. However, once you get the job, don't be surprised, and especially for Veterans Affairs, we will ask for an official transcript from the university. I know this because I had to provide my own transcripts when I first got the job here for my degrees. So it will be needed to have an official transcript down the road. However, for application purposes, you're okay to have an unofficial transcript. How is the resume used to determine your pay? So resume is a factor in determining the pay, but it also is a factor of, again, the monetary value that you put on your resume. If you did choose to put that, such as your salary information, or in setting pay, we may ask you for copies of your last pay stubs, because we do have different authorities within our jobs to go above a minimum rate. For example, a GS5 job is the top of my head, I want to say like 42,000 GS5 step one, and I'll pull up what the GS schedule is as well. If we wanted to go above that, we could, as long as you show us proof that you've made more money in a comparable job. So we try to match that salary, especially for people who are leaving a job to come to us. We kind of want to make it enticing, right, and competitive. So we will do our best to always match your current pay, if not try to go higher. How much information is, yep.
Oh, I was just going to say, I can read the questions to you. That way they can have
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, how much information is too much details?
I mean, again, you don't want to be repetitive, and I'll go about this in a little bit of when we do look at a job description and what to look for and how to, make sure that your resume matches that. But, again, just taking an example here, got a cup of coffee. So if your job is, I'm getting people a cup of coffee, you can only say that so many times in so many different ways. So as long as that's highlighted as one of the tasks that you have done in your job is getting a cup of coffee, then it's okay to just state that once. It doesn't have to be repetitive over and over again. So we'll go over what to look for in a job announcement to make sure that your resume reflects that. And as long as it does, you should be okay. So you don't have to worry about, do I have enough information or not?
All right. Is the scoring done electronically or by human determination?
Both. So most of our jobs will have a electronic objective scoring out matrix. So when you answer certain questions or to meet certain qualifications, if you answer them truthfully, because if you don't, then, let's say you bypass that electronic step, then when we review it and we see that it wasn't truthful, we're not going to move forward with your application, because that's flag number one, is that you're not truthful in your application. However, there are certain screen out questions. For example, if the job is saying that it's only located in Michigan, therefore, are you willing to work in Michigan? And if you say no, that electronic process is going to screen you out and not move forward your application forward, because we don't need to review any of the people who are not willing to move to Michigan, if that was one of the questions. Or one of the questions may be, do you have a bachelor's degree? Or do you have 5 years of experience in this related field? Again, if you answer no, that's the electronic version that screens you out. Then after you bypass that, then it comes to the human factor, where my specialists, and I believe some of them are on this call, will take the resumes and they will review them to make sure it matches, for the job that we are looking for. We have standards and sets of handbooks and guidelines for us to reference back to on how to qualify people and what it is that we are looking for. So in the latter half of it, it does fall on a human determination.
And I have one more here. So USA Jobs does not have an automated system and they are personally being reviewed?
So I believe I just answered that. So it's a little bit of both. It is an automated system that will screen out people based on the screen out questions that we have on it. And again, that's automated. It's cut and dry. You either meet it or you don't. And if you do meet it, then it comes over to us to review from a personal human factor.
Thank you. No more questions in the chat.
Okay. All right. So moving on forward, again, we talked about what the documents you can upload. Next, let's talk about how to search for a job, because that's where we're going to spend most of our time in. So if you go back to back to clicking on USA Jobs, it will take you back to the main page. This is the very first page. As you will see in here, I'm already logged on and under the search button. But within anywhere that you are in USA Jobs, you should see the search button. So I'm just showing you in true Microsoft fashion, there are more than one ways to get to your end goal. So going back to here, if we click, we'll take a secretary job. So we'll just type secretary. It will tell you some of the different job titles that it thinks that you are searching for. But we'll just click on the first one because we want to be just as generic as possible in order to narrow it down. So once we click on secretary, you will see that there are different jobs here, one of 56. If I remove all my filters, and I'll talk about the filters in a little bit. Okay, so if I just search, my only filter is searching by the job title secretary. There are 2,566 jobs on USA Jobs matching the word secretary. Now, obviously, if you want to narrow this down, there are a few ways of going about it. You can either sort by relevance, closing date, open date, agency, and so on, as you can see here. And then also to the right, you will see the different types of ways to narrow it down. The biggest way is, how has the agency decided to choose to recruit for this position? There are many ways. The agency has the right to choose and say, I only want to look at my internal employees, which is generally for a promotional opportunity. There are plenty of jobs within VA that are only applicable to Veteran Affairs employees. Then there are different types of services that you can apply through, such as the acceptance service or the competitive service. Like I said, internal to an agency. If you are in a different agency, we do also have transfer authorities and transitions and so on and so forth. Then you can also narrow it down for jobs to veterans or students, recent grads, senior executives, disabilities, and so on and so forth. But in this case, we're going to look at jobs that are open to the public. This means that anyone, regardless of disability, regardless of military experience, or regardless of current federal job history, will be able to apply for this job. So open to the public means anyone in the US public will apply. The only caveat to this is you have to be a US citizen. Very few and far in between jobs will make an exception to that, because it makes sense. It's USA Jobs. It's US federal government. They want to hire US citizens. Sorry. But again, there are some jobs, very few and far in between, where we can make an exception to that. So in this case, we're going to take a look at, here's a secretary for Department of Veterans Affairs for Veterans Health Administration, which is us. In this case, this job is in Manchester, New Hampshire. And you can see right off here, it is a GS6, which starts at $43,772. We click on this job, and let's say you have someone there who wants to apply for a secretarial job. You would help them click on this, and then you will learn more about the job. There's a video in here. The videos are all the same for Veteran Health Administration services. And then it will also tell you more about the agency itself. And then if you scroll down under the responsibilities, this is your, what I call your meat and potatoes, where you're going to spend a lot of time in making sure that your resume matches this. So as you can see here, for this job, the requirements, because that's what it is, it's a requirement in order for you to do these types of responsibilities, to provide administrative support to all primary care service line staff members, coordinate and manage your calendar, service timekeeper, and so on and so forth. Now, in your resume, you want to be able to say, let's say you have been a secretary before, you have somebody who has been a secretary and wants to apply for this job. You want to make sure that the secretarial duties are highlighted to match this. Please don't copy and paste. We see right through that, but make it your own. Basically being able to show that, hey, take this, for example, coordinate purchase requests for supplies and equipment. So on your resume or on the resume, it should show something along the lines of, during my time as a secretary for GM or Ford, I was tasked with ensuring that I made purchases for various supplies and equipment for my group or for my team or so on and so forth. So that when my specialists are reviewing this, they will have this already pulled up, and they're basically going to comb through the resume to make sure that they can draw out these specific skills that you have done before. So in that example that I just gave, we'll clearly be able to see that you have coordinated purchases requests for supplies and equipment. So that is where you're going to spend a lot of the time. Then furthermore down, you will see here, you will find more information about the job itself. such as the different work schedules. Will there be a requirement to travel? Is it does it require a financial disclosure report? Generally, higher graded positions do require this to make sure that there is no conflict in your own finances that may put you at a risk or a threat for the federal government based on the position that you have. Again, a CFO who has money laundering issues, chances are they're at a higher risk to be able to compromise their duties as a CFO for VA than someone who doesn't have those financial worries. So we'll talk about the background investigation in a little bit as well. But back to here, you will find more information about the job itself. Is it a supervisory job? What is the promotional opportunity? A lot of these jobs, especially in the GS scale, which is our Title V, and if you recall back to our administrative ways, jobs that they are going to have promotional opportunities. In this case, this is only a GS6 and it's going to stay a GS6. But if this had any further promotional opportunity, it would say in here, promotional opportunity to a GS9. That means each year, the individual who would be occupying this position would be eligible to be promoted up to a GS9. And then if you scroll down, you'll see some of the requirements for the job itself. Again, you must be a US citizen to apply for it. Every job in the federal government will have some sort of background investigation. The different levels of that may vary, but every job will have a background investigation. Some of the jobs within VA are DTP positions or drug tested positions that it will say here, you may be subjected to that depending on the position itself. And then selective service registration is required for any males born after 12/1959. And then it talks about the different types of stuff here as well. The other area that I would highly recommend for individuals who want to apply for jobs to pay attention to is the specialized experience. In here, it will tell you what we are looking for in that specific individual, that they have already the knowledge and experience in order to be successful at this job that they're applying for. So in this case, we want to make sure that this individual has either federal experience or it can be private experience in preparing, proofing, and finalizing various correspondences, preparing reports, ordering and managing supplies, equipment, using computer equipment such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on and so forth. Again, in the resume, it should show that this individual has done these already or has the knowledge and skills to do this in order for us to qualify them for the job and to stand out. So for example, if you have experience in managing appointment schedules for conferences, meetings, and etc., then in the resume, I would put something along the lines of, during my time with General Motors as a secretary for the, bumper division, I'm just making stuff up. I was tasked with ensuring that various appointments for the executives were scheduled on a daily basis, weekly basis. I was tasked with ensuring that meetings did take place. I transcribed some of the meetings, or were tasked with taking notes for the meetings. And then that way we can clearly see in your resume that you already meet this qualification that we need. And then the competencies, skills, and assessments that we will take a look at is these main ones over here. Most of them will be listed on the job description itself. It will say that you need to have administrative and management skills, computer skills, can write well, and so on and so forth. And again, I won't go through all of this, but it basically talks everything that you need to know about the job, or at least most of the stuff that you need to know about the job in here, what the requirements are. And then I'll also tell you on how you will be evaluated. So in here, you will see different evaluation processes used by different administrations, different agencies, and even within VA, we have Veteran Health Administration, which is what we are, but we also have Veterans Benefits Administration, which is still part of Veterans Affairs, but it's a separate compartment. So many agencies may have the same thing. Department of Homeland Security is one of them. They have over 20 some different sub-agencies within them. And in here, you will find more information about how that specific agency or administration will qualify this position itself. And in here, it will also talk about what the security clearances are required. So like I said, every position must be will undergo a background investigation of some sort and must successfully pass that background investigation. Different positions have different levels of clearances. Generally speaking, the higher you go in a position, the higher the background investigation is. So it may be just a low-level clearance or a secret clearance, a top secret clearance, and so on and so forth. But in this case, you would find that information here. And then if you have questions, you would be able to click. Okay. So going back to it, it'll also tell you in here what the requirement documentations are. It is very important that if the requirement documentation is listed in here, that the applicant has those required documentation, because they'll only have so much time to get the documentation. Jobs are open and closed for a specific period of time. In this case, this job was only open for 4 days. That means that an individual looking for this specific job only has 4 days to apply for this job and upload the different requirements that are needed for this job. So in this case, it talks about that you need a cover letter, and some of these may not apply to you, and that's okay. But as long as you read some of these, you want to make sure that the ones that do apply to you or to the applicant, that they upload those documentations. And it also talks about veterans preference that we talked about a little bit, and what that looks like and how that will play a factor into it. You'll also learn more about the benefits of the job itself, such as health benefits and so on and so forth. And then lastly, it gives you contact information in here. This is important because if you have questions, or if one of the applicants has questions about the job that they applied for, chances are I won't be able to answer it unless it's within Battle Creek itself. If it is outside of Battle Creek or any of our 5 other what we call CBOC locations or offsite locations, then in this case, for example, this is in New Hampshire. Now, I could theoretically search for somebody and find somebody in New Hampshire that can be able to assist the individual, but the contact information is where they should start with if they have further questions about this job itself. And then lastly, it just talks about the different, how we do not discriminate, and we're equal employment employer, and so on and so forth. And we do have reasonable accommodations and all of that good stuff. So I will pause here to answer any questions that we may have about this.
Great timing, Al. We do have a few questions that have come in. The first one, how can we tell if there's only one vacancy when it shows the post as having a few?
So great question. It will show on the here in the locations how many vacancies that they have. In this case, it's only one vacancy, and it is only for Manchester, New Hampshire. Multiple vacancies is generally what you will see listed in here if it says that there's more than one vacancy, or it may just say more than one vacancy is applicable. If it's all in the same location, then just this language will change. But if it's multiple positions for multiple locations, chances are you will see all the locations here as well. There are certain jobs, if I go back to the search, that you will see that will be open in various different locations. And trying to find one to show as an example.
Sure are a lot of them.
There are a lot of positions. I'm sure we'll come across one, so we don't waste everybody's time looking for one. But I assure you, we'll say on there that there are more than one location is being considered.
Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Question, can you live in Michigan and telework from an office in another state?
If the job description allows that, absolutely. There are certain jobs where they will be listed as remote opportunities or virtual jobs. Chances are in the description itself, it will say location negotiable after selection. And basically what that means is, generally speaking, is you could work from home, but it will say it in the job itself.
Perfect, thank you. Next question. What if someone doesn't have a clearance or it has expired?
So for either one, you would just undergo the steps to undergo a new clearance process like a brand new employee. If the clearance has expired, then it has expired. The people doing the background investigation will know that already, and they will take all that information under consideration in undergoing your new clearance process.
Awesome. And last one so far, is it okay to submit a copy of your performance appraisal if you are not a federal employee with the SF-50?
You can, absolutely. It is okay, and nothing prevents you from doing that.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all we have so far.
Okay, great. So in this, I just want to spend a little bit more time of searching for the jobs itself. So now I'm going to start narrowing this down a little bit. And again, in here, you can narrow by the grades. So if you're like, hey, I only want to look at jobs of making $50,000 and above, you can set the salary here, and it will only show you jobs of $50,000 and above. So it's not wasting your time. But in this instance, I want to search by Veterans Affairs. So I'm going to clear the, well, I'm sorry, let me backtrack a little. I'm going to click on Veterans Affairs. And then I'm going to clear, there we go. So in this case, we've got open to the public, Department of Veterans Affairs jobs in here. Now you can look at all of these jobs that we have. A lot of them will tell you, like, for example, a physician, that you must have a clear license to be able to practice as a physician. Otherwise, that's one of those computer generated questions that will screen you out. And again, you have to answer that. So if you answer, you do have one, but turns around you don't, sure, you'll bypass the computer, but then when you get to us, we'll be able to verify that very quickly. So in here, you can see that the jobs are sorted in this case by location, but let's say we want to do sort by job title. You will see all the different jobs that we have to offer at Veterans Affairs. Here, I believe we put open to the public, Veterans Affairs. And then if we wanted to search by location as well, we could do that. So in this case, I'll just search for Battle Creek. And in here, I'll take this off. You will see that I've got 4 different jobs matching these specific filters that we have. If I take the filters off, now we've got 52 different jobs. Like I said, some of the jobs are only open to the agency. So if you click here in these little icons, it will tell you what it is for. In this case, we have an administrative officer job that's only open to federal employees within the agency. So only VA current employees would be able to be eligible for that job. But the advanced medical support assistant job, for example, it is open to the public. And I know that because I recognize the little symbols here that you'll see. But if you hover your mouse over the symbol itself, it will tell you what that job is open to. So in this case, it is open to current accepted service employees. Here's one to US national citizens. And this basically means that it's open to the public right here. So we'll go ahead and click to this job here, and then we'll talk about this specific job in Battle Creek. So again, it is an advanced medical support assistant. So this is one of our hybrid jobs that we talked about. So it would have various hiring authorities that we could take into consideration, but I'll also tell you in here, like, for example, this is not a telework eligible job. It is located in Battle Creek, and it will tell you what the job's assignments will be. So again, someone applying for that job, they should be able to highlight in their resume that they've done some of this stuff. It doesn't have to be word by word. We understand that, as long as you can participate in team huddles and team meetings, we would love for it to be under patient care. But if it's not, we'll also take that under consideration because it is transferable skill or knowledge to this job. And then I'll also talk about what the work schedule for this job is. And then, you're not required to travel. It's not a supervisory job. There are no promotional opportunities for this job. It doesn't mean that there aren't growth opportunities within VA down the road, but this job itself will not automatically grant you a promotion because it's not slated that way. And then I will tell you in here what the requirements are, such as the basic requirements to meet this, and give you further information of the job itself. So if you were to apply for this job, we'll walk through that. It will tell you in here to select one of the resumes that you have. So in this case, we'll just select one of my resumes. Actually, we'll do this test one so we're not throwing anybody off. And then any documentations that you want to send over to be reviewed. So again, if I wanted to show my transcript for that, I would do that. If I wanted to show any letters of recommendations or anything that I feel is permanent towards this job, I would do that as well. So in this case, I just click on transcripts and I'm going to move and continue on. And it will tell me in here that these are the 2 documents that I am willing to attach. I acknowledge it and then save and continue. And then this is just more for USA Jobs purposes of what works for them as far as advertising, meaning, how did you find out about this job? Did you just search it on USA Jobs? Did you see it on an agency website or social media? Somebody told you about it and so on and so forth. In this case, we just search for USA Jobs and save and continue. And in here, it just tells you that all the information you're submitting is true and faithful to the best of your knowledge. And if it's not, there are going to be repercussions with it. So now what it's doing is USA Jobs is taking your applications and transferring it over to the agency's website. Because like I said, every competitive US federal job must go in and out through USA Jobs. And now we are into this jobs application within VA. So we're going to go ahead and continue here, and we'll talk about some of the screening questions that it tells you. So in this case, you want to make sure that your information is up to date. In this case, mine isn't, but we're just doing an example here. Now, here's where we talk about veterans preference that I talked about in the power slide. So if you do have a veteran preference that you want to claim, 5 points, 10 points, and so on and so forth, 30% disability or more, you will click all of these here. In my situations, I'm not going to claim it just for testing purposes. So we're going to go ahead and click continue. And then it talks about your federal employment. So are you considered a federal employee? If you're not a federal employee, that's okay, because this job was open to the public. So we're just going to click none of the above. Now, these are some of the assessments that I talked about of the screen out questions. And again, be as faithful and true to this as you can, as truthful and honest as possible, because we are going to review these after. However, there are some screen out questions here. For example, do you possess 1 year of experience to be equivalent to doing some of this stuff that we ask for in the job description? So yes, I do have 1 year of experience. Do I have the ability to collaborate, communicate, set priorities, and organize work, and so on and so forth? And then you answer this. I have not had any education, training, or experience in this. I've had some education or training or experiences, but I've not performed it on the job. I have performed this on the job. It was monitored closely by a supervisor. And as you can see, each question, and I'll spare you reading them all here, is going to kind of assess your true assessment of the job. And based on the answers, it may or may not forward your resume over to the hiring official, because if we review everybody that applies for a job, most of the jobs, we range anywhere between 100 to 500 applicants if we do not have any screening out questions. So this does help us at the end to not, to only review the people that actually qualify for the job before we qualify them on ourselves. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and put that I'm an expert at everything, because after all, we all think we're legends in our own minds, as I like to say. So just for the sake of training, but please answer those truthfully, because we will be able to know the difference when we do get your documentation. So in here now, it shows you the only required documentation is in red. In this case, we already told USA Jobs to go ahead and transfer over my resume to Veteran Affairs website to apply for this job, for the lack of a better term. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click that I want my resume to be uploaded in the resume. Well, let's say I had a cover letter that I transferred over. If I had a disability letter that we talked about, the Schedule A that you wanted to put, you would put that in here. Any licenses that you would put, transcripts, SF50s, and so on and so forth. And I believe I did click on, yep, a transcript. And then we're going to go ahead and click on continue. Now, it tells you all the statuses that you've completed everything. If you are satisfied with it, you will acknowledge this and then submit an application. In this case, I'm not going to do that because I'm not really applying for an advanced medical support assistant job. But once you do that, basically then it will take you back to USA Jobs and it will show you the status of this application. You will have up until the close of this job to go in there and upload anything. If you're, I don't know, awakened at 2 a.m. in the morning, you're like, oh, nonsense, I forgot to upload a cover letter and I really wanted that. You could go back in here as long as it is within this date period that the job is not closed, and update what you have put in or change your answers to the questions or anything like that. Once that date passes, you cannot make any more changes to your application. So with that being said, I will pause here and go back to USA Jobs so that and answer any questions you guys may have.
Okay, Al, we have one, and it's very appropriate right now. Are interviews in person or virtual?
Great question. Most of our interviews, that's, as I like to say, dealer's choice in this aspect. Most of our hiring managers will offer the option to the employees, either or. If they are in person, we'll make sure that we follow COVID guidelines that are required, such as, both parties will be wearing a mask, 6 feet distance, and so on and so forth. But chances are it will probably be virtual if both agree to it.
Perfect. Let me check. We have a few more. When completing your onboarding questionnaire, how important is it to remember every address you lived at and the actual dates? In the second half, should the dates connect in each tab?
So for the resume part itself, it is important, but you can guesstimate or you can put, just month and year. Now, where it will become important is through your background investigation. We always tell people, once they undergo all the steps necessary, so they've applied for a job, they've been qualified, we've interviewed them, and they've passed the interview, the hiring manager says, I like this person, go ahead and extend a tentative offer to them. At that point, we like to tell our applicants, listen, here are the next couple of steps that you should expect to get from us. If it is a drug tested position, then you will come in for a drug test. Employee health, like if you've got to do some sort of a physical or a screening in that sense, depending on the job requirements. Then at that point, we'll also tell them that your background investigation is going to want to know at least the past up to 10 years, but generally 5 years, where you lived, who you talked to, your associates, where you worked, any points of contacts, any references, that type of stuff. Because again, depending on the clearance itself, for example, I used to work for Homeland Security. Homeland Security required a top secret clearance for the job that I had. They wanted 10 years of my where I lived and the places that I worked, as well as contact names. So I had to go to my neighbor and I had to say, just a FYI, you may, get an investigator knocking down your door asking about me, just so you're not caught off guard. Like, those are very important. And we, depending on the job and the clearance itself, we will tell the applicant at that point what to expect.
Perfect, thank you. Does the federal government require the COVID vaccine?
So that's a hot topic one right now. And I would say that prior to President Biden's latest requirement, we did encourage people to have the vaccine, but there were some exemptions that individuals could have, such as medical exemptions or religious exemptions. Honestly, we are still working through the latest push by this administration to kind of figure that out. So we don't have clear guidance of what this mandation is going to consist of. However, personally, and from what I've seen so far, I do believe that there will be some sort of exemptions down the road because in order to infringe upon religious beliefs, it takes more than just the president demanding that or mandating it. So with that being said, right now, for nurses and physicians, our Title 38, we're strictly mandated, but again, exemptions were put aside. And for those who did choose to exercise their right to the exemption, then they would have to undergo, for example, like if you worked in the facility, you would have to undergo weekly testing of COVID to show that you were COVID negative, and then you'd have to wear a mask nonetheless, and so on and so forth. So higher measures for those who did choose to opt out, but the opt-out option is still there, if that answers the question.
Yes, I believe so. Thank you. Next question. Does the federal government look at credit reports?
I would say the higher the background investigation clearance level is, the more chances that they do. I know, for example, again, going back to my Homeland Security days when I had a top secret clearance, they did look at that. And I often use this as an example because it's true and yet funny. At that time, I was in Washington, D.C., only to meet with a background investigative detective who pointed out to me that I had an unpaid library fine from my college days back in Michigan that I had no idea. It was only $25. And they said, basically, they run through everything and anything that they can uncover based, again, on the 11th clearance level. And then, the question was, why do you have a $25 fee that was unpaid from, it was over like 6 or 7 years? And my answer, truthfully, was I didn't know that it existed, but now that I do, I'll go ahead and pay that fee and move on. So to answer your question, it all depends on the background investigation clearance level.
And last question so far. When you update the documents, do you only add the new document or do you need to reattach all of the documents?
Great question. So no, you only need to update the new document. So on that, I'll segue back into USA Jobs as I have it here. So let's just pretend I did actually apply for that job. And in this case, I'll show you for a job that I've actually have applied for and what that would look like. So, so in here, you will see that I actually did take, some sort of action for this medical support assistant, but it will tell you in here that I have not finished this application. And because I have not finished this application and it is still within the open period, it will let me go in there and finish my application. Should I choose to do this or update the application? For example, this job is closed, so I cannot update this. All I can do is just print out the job announcement so I can get in touch with the contact person at the bottom of the page should I had any follow-up questions with this. But in this scenario, it will let me go back to it. So if I go finish my application, it takes me right back to here. And it tells me if I want to add any more documents. And as you can see, I didn't click on anything. It basically still has highlighted my test document. If I wanted to delete this, basically I would just check off another one and move it on to the other resume that I wanted to upload. So in this case, I'll go ahead and change it to this resume, save and continue. And then if I wanted to add more documentation, if I want to say, oh, I have a great letter of recommendation that I think would go great with this job, I'm going to click on that. Again, not required. So make sure that you read the required documentation. And just because you upload something, if it was not required, we're not required to review that document. Chances are we will, but if they say, oh, you submitted your transcripts, but they're not required for the job, they may not review those transcripts. So in this case, you would just, again, click on the attachments that you want to attach, save and continue, review one last time, acknowledge it, save and continue, and then it basically takes you back to the agency's website for you to update the application. So again, if I wanted to make any changes, I could do that through the various things. If I wanted to change my answers, I could. and it basically takes you all the way through these different portions in here. If we just skip forward to the documents section, I can upload more documents in here. For example, like I said, a letter of recommendation. So in this case, I would put that, since there is no drop down for a letter of recommendation, because again, it's not a requirement, I would put that under an other document. Click continue. Now, the other option too here is, if for whatever reason you did not upload your document to USA Jobs, but you just thought of it to upload it in here, it does give you the opportunity to upload a document directly into this site for the job itself. Some jobs allow you to do this, some don't. So don't be surprised if it doesn't have that option. Basically, all it means is you need to upload it to USA Jobs and then click to transfer the document over. And then in here, if you noticed, I didn't do this resume in here. So when I click continue, it shows you and it gives you a little warning that says, hey, did you forget to attach your resume? Because you have an unassigned document here, which is my resume. And in this case, I'll say, oops, yes, I did. So I'll go cancel. I'll go up here to the resume. As you can see, there's nothing here. I'll upload my resume. Remember, we changed it from the test to an actual resume. I'll click on continue. And now it's taking that new resume, and once I hit submit, sends that over to that person reviewing this, this specific job connection. So in this case, I won't do that. I'll just go ahead and leave it blank and return to USA Jobs. And pause here for any more questions.
We're all set on this side. We have no questions at this time, Al.
Okay, great. So again, just a little flyover through USA Jobs. It will tell you the different hiring authorities that we have here. Let me tell you some of the events that are happening that these agencies have chosen to advertise through USA Jobs. It will tell you, some of the myths. For example, they're scanned for keywords by an automated system. I explained this earlier. It's really not the case. We do review every resume, but we do have screen out questions as well, where we look at your eligibility and qualifications for the job itself. And then again, if you have any questions or anything like that, you guys have my contact information. I just strongly encourage you to make sure that you do look at the job that you're applying for, and make sure that at the end of the job, so I'll pull up Battle Creek again, the contact information of that job is there. So for example, let me remove all these. Let's try this again. The Battle Creek. So right now, Battle Creek alone has 182 jobs. And the only filter is Battle Creek. So you will see jobs within other federal agencies as well. It's not just VA that is hiring around Battle Creek. Now, we want you to think of us first, and if we can make a match happen, we would love that, because we're always looking for people as well. But in here, to be fair to the other agencies, they're also hiring it, and you could view those. For the sake of today's training, so for VA, you are looking at 52 jobs at Battle Creek for Veterans Health Administration. And in here, you will see that, for example, this is a open and continuous job. Here's one that I was talking about, multiple locations. So this is a great example. There's an IT specialist. It says in here, multiple locations. And it will say it in here that it is open to federal employees as well as to the public. The 3-person icon is the public, and what most people will want to check out first. So in this case, you will click on in here and it will tell you all the different locations that this is looking for. So as you can see, it's almost every state, if not every state, and multiple cities within that state. So when you apply for this job, one of the questions from that questionnaire is going to say, which places do you want to work at? So that whoever's reviewing these applications at the end of it, this person, in this case, is just the National Recruitment Center, that team will then be able to send out the right people to the right locations based on interest. So this is one of the jobs that kind of glad that it showed up now to answer one of the questions from earlier. This is how you can tell that it's in multiple locations. The other thing one of the cool things you can do about this is you can save this for later on. If you're like, hey, I want to apply for this, but I don't want to have to search through all that again, I can just save this on my profile. And then when you go to your actual profile itself, it will be here under Save Jobs. You can also set up searches to notify you. So if you recall here, after you do an actual search, all right, so let me start from the beginning. Once you search for an actual search and you narrow it down, so in this case, like I said, this is Battle Creek. We're going to narrow it to show only open to the public, and we're going to narrow the search to show only Veterans Affairs. So in this case, we've got 26 jobs for Veterans Affairs open to the public. And if you don't want to do this every time, you can tell people, hey, save this search, and they'll email you when new jobs matching these filters actually hit USA Jobs. So if I were to save this search, I'll put a name here. In this case, I'll just, so I don't get confused, I'll put VA Battle Creek. And then how frequent do you want to get notified? Obviously, if you're telling people or you're searching for a job, you want to do it weekly. But if you're like, I've got time to do it weekly or monthly, I'm sorry, you want to do it daily, but if you got time, you want to do it weekly or monthly, then you can as well. So if I click daily and hit save, every day when a new job that matches Battle Creek, Michigan, VA Health Administration, and open to the public comes on, I'll get an email that says, here's the jobs that are listed matching your criteria. If you want to apply for them, you could. So I think that's a great tool to also highlight.
That is awesome. Al, we have one more question and a comment. So I'll go with the question first. Can you apply if you are under honorable or dishonorably discharged veteran status?
Yes. My rule of thumb and what I tell people is obviously be honest with the questionnaires and what the job requirements are. So again, if it asks for a brain surgeon, and you're not a brain surgeon, don't apply for a brain surgeon because that kind of answers itself, right? However, from there, if you're not sure on certain things, I always work under the let them be the ones to tell you no type of mindset. So I would encourage anybody to apply, and then whoever's reviewing the job will then determine, the criteria to include the honorable, dishonorable discharge, and match that to the job itself if that's one of the requirements. So I would always say, go ahead and apply for a job that you're interested in, and let us be the ones tell you no. Like don't be the one telling no to yourself or shooting yourself in the foot, because what's the worst that's going to come out of that? Somebody telling you no. So might as well let them do that.
Perfect. Thank you. And the last comment that we have is, glad this is recorded. That was a lot of information. Thank you for taking the time for us today, Alger, and thank you for the interpreters for keeping up with all of the information.
I've got to say, I'm very impressed with them. I try not to look at them, but I see all the signing and I think that they're doing a great job. So thank you for keeping up with my sometimes squirrel moments, as I like to say. But the last thing I do want to highlight is that at VA, we do have a upcoming job fair, and that is on October 6th. So if you could let anybody who is interested at a VA career, especially in these 3 positions, but we'll take anybody for any position that they want to come, that they reach out to us, to me and my team. The job fair itself is on October 6th from these times, 1 to 3 p.m. or 4 to 6 p.m. have them, again, if they are interested, to reach out to me right away so we can try to get their information ahead of time. Here is my contact information again. Oh, this one too high. So again, alger.kuko, which is my first name, my last name at va.gov, or have them give me a call or send me a text message just so I can initiate that first initial contact with the person that wants to come to the job fair. And then after that, I'll make sure that they get set up with it, and where we will review their documentation ahead of time. And if we find them qualified, we are doing on-the-spot interviews that day. And that is the point of in-person job fair, in hopes to turn around and be able to provide some offers to people on the spot. So if you know of anybody that is looking for a career at VA, feel free to send them our way, especially on Wednesday, October 6th.
And Al, is it safe to assume that the job fair is located at the VA Center in Battle Creek, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. It is safe to assume that it is located at VA Battle Creek. We'll have more information as far as the specific location within the hospital and which building it will be on. But generally speaking, is if we get that initial contact with the person interested in coming, we'll make sure to let them know during that time as well. And then I will make sure that you guys have not only the PowerPoint slides, but as well as this little flyer that you can keep and hand out. And in there, it has our contact information for people to reach out to us. So yeah, it is down here all the way at the bottom is my my team's contact information. So if interested, just feel free to reach out to us as well.
Awesome, and we will send that out to our field staff. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
We have another question, Al. Are the other VA locations across the state hiring?
Yes, they are. I would say mainly in the medical service profession, clinical settings, they are, meaning nurses, medical support assistants, physicians, nurse assistants, LPNs, and so on and so forth. Even housekeepers, cooks, all kinds of different positions across the state. We definitely are. Keep in mind that VA Battle Creek does have 5 off-site locations as well, to include Lansing and Kalamazoo, Benton Harbor, Muskegon. I'm blanking on one more, but we do have, that's just within VA Battle Creek. But again, VA Ann Arbor, VA Detroit, all across the state are hiring for similar positions.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, so that concludes our presentation. Thank you again, Al, for this very informative presentation. I know that I learned a lot, and I feel much more confident in helping job seekers, especially at the VA. So I do appreciate it. And we would also like to thank our interpreters, Bethany and Laura. Thank you so much for assisting us in this presentation today. For any additional information that anyone may have, you can also reach out to the Southwest District Business Team. We have also provided our information on this slide here. With that, I thank everyone for attending today, and I hope you also found it helpful as well. There will be a survey emailed to everyone at the end of this webinar. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great day.